We're going back to the beginning of the MI area and rules. And as we progress, we're progressing to the posterior. And there will be some questions that will come along here.
Gotta go back to the crud slide for a few minutes.
Well, let's just stop right there. Let's go through this whole section to remind you where we were. Travel through it slowly so they can see. Back to, all right, stop right there. Stop right there. Identify this layer right here. The yolk sac is the correct answer. There's a thin layer here. It's just kind of separated, not fully separated. Right there. What is that layer?
Amnion?
It is the amnion. It should be separated more. On the opposite side, we should also see the amnion. It's kind of hard, not a good specimen.
There it is, separation right here.
Yeah, here it is over here. Here's the amnion. It kind of stuck together. Now that's the amnion right there.
Yeah.
But anyway, the amnion is always adjacent to epidermal, ectodermal. It's always adjacent to skin. It is the extraembryonic membrane that touches skin in all amnions. All is spelled A-L-L. Okay?
In case y'all forgot.
The outermost layer on the right side, and you can see there are two layers there. The outermost layer is always chorion. Don't miss that.
Okay.
Will that be on the exam,
Is it
sir?
on the right side?
All right.
Right
Em-
side
the
is
embryo's
coming out
right.
corner. Yeah, embryo's right.
Embryo's
It's not
right,
your
yes.
right. If you think about your right, you're out of it. All right? It's the embryo's correct side.
So if you ask us that, it'll be somewhere where we can clearly see
Yeah.
the two.
We will not use that for specimen.
Okay.
I'll use a slide
one
that
where
actually
it's
separates
clearly
it perfectly.
separated, where you will have no difficulty interpreting.
And you can tell the yolk sac because it has blood vessels.
It has blood vessels.
Yes.
Yes. At this stage. All right, sir. Now let's progress. Oh, by the way, I didn't go into this part of the body. So if you go into the neural tube, these are, oops,
Sorry.
these are markers. And these markers are called the inner ear, all right? Cochlear semicircular canals. And they are adjacent to the posterior part of the myelencephalon. So that's posterior up there, okay? So coming down here, then this is the myelencephalon stop. This is now neck. Go down here. What is the region? Isthmus. Now what is this? Neck. All right? That is not difficult to
Y'all on
use.
fire.
So each time we point out something like this is a set number of points on the practical. Every one of those items, 2 points.
You could say otic vessels rather than.
Yes, you may say otic or auditory or inner ear or whatever, okay, as long as we can get to the correct relationship, that's fine. So, it's fine, all right? Now we're going to go farther into this system and show you what's happening. Unfortunately, we have to track up and down. Go, sir. All right, so we're cutting through the floor of the tube now, and we expect to see under the tube one more. That is called notochord. So track to the anterior and to the posterior. Now I didn't stop. I didn't tell you that something else has appeared here. Now all of these dark spots, dark purple, are nerves. Not your responsibility. All right. But on each side here, there's something else. There's cold in the tissue. And I'm going to give you a clue. Blood vessels are present. There are two sets in the anterior body you're responsible for. Those that are closer to the gut are called aortic. Okay? Those that are more to the periphery are called cardinals. Cardinal veins. The interior cardinal veins.
Yes.
So those
Anterior.
those little
Cardinals.
openings,
Anterior.
So we've got
Those spaces are cardinal veins.
Okay, posterior. Mostly posterior.
There, if we're in the posterior
As you
line,
fall-
there's
as you
all
go farther down,
posterior
you'll see.
cardinal
That's,
veins.
the middle is,
This guy. They're anterior because we're in the anterior part of the brain. This middle is the notochord.
All right, sir, you would proceed. Oh, by the way, what are these?
wait, what are we talking about?
These.
Moving to the
Okay.
posterior. Put the pointer on. What are those?
Neural breast?
Somites, I heard somebody
Yeah,
say
right
it.
there.
Those are somites.
Ever so gently, but I heard it.
Yes, you're beginning to get
Oh, was
somites.
it you?
In chickens,
You?
these
Oh, my
anterior
bad.
somites are kind of stringy and spread out.
That's what
Okay,
you're looking for.
continue,
Look at
please, sir.
Continue. All right. We're on the way.
There's actually some nerve tissue there, but I'm not going to do anything with it. You don't go too fast.
Sorry.
Go up and down, you hit the gut. All right, keep on going.
We ain't there yet.
All right, so there are the gill slits coming in and the gill bars.
Okay.
And we're going to strike the gut.
Starting to strike.
Go ahead. Go.
Oh, that's the
Go.
forehead.
All right, one more.
One more. Oh. Damn. And that's the next one.
All right, so go up here now. All right, so here we see, aside from that membrane that's out of position, we see neural tube, notochord, on each side somites.
Okay.
All right, keep going to the ventral.
Easy.
Neural tube, notochord. Then what do we see on each side here? Well, we see major blood vessels called dorsal aortic. And then down at the midline, we see gut. Neural tube, notochord, gut with major blood vessels on each side.
Where's the gut? Sorry, I was looking down. The big thing in the middle.
Continue now. to
That's
the-
like a later on version of what the stenomedeum was, right?
No, it's the gut.
Stenomedeum was there, but never.
Okay.
No, it's just the gut. We haven't cut through some.
Which germ layer lines this space?
It's almost there.
Endoderm. Endoderm is in the pharyngeal pocket, which touches ectoderm. That's where a gill slit is. Gill cleft, whatever you want to call it. Pharyngeal gill slit. Why are pharyngeal gill slits important? If you had to define a chordate, you would say a chordate has. Chordate.
We have our. Is that a cord?
Dorsal tubular
We don't have
nerve.
any more. We had them.
Notochord.
We've had them.
Right.
We don't have them anymore though. The gill slits.
Pharyngeal gill slits.
You-
Postinal tail. Thyroid. Why are pharyngeal gill slits important? They are
Now we
definitive.
look at the side where that space was the stenomedeum.
Would you point to
They
the dorsal
define.
aortic?
They define.
They
They're
look like
absolutely
this.
important.
And then
There
I
are
have
no
in front
known
of it
chordates without
infundibulum.
them. All right, continue,
Would
sir.
we point to the
Oh, okay,
dorsal
yeah.
aortic again?
So what are those
Point
either
to the
sides of
dorsal
those?
aortic again, real
Wait,
quick.
what?
That's the gut, right?
Yeah, this is the gut.
So what is
Dorsal
what are
aortic
those
are
two?
continuous with the aortic arches.
Some do.
So if you go up here,
Stenomedeum?
she wants dorsal.
Because it doesn't just have one break in the mouth. You have two for the beak.
She wants
Yes.
dorsal aortic, okay. So neural tube
Mhm. Notochord.
up there.
Sorry.
Neural tube, somites on each side. By the way, that structure is important. I'll talk about it later. Neural tube, notochord. Okay. Major blood vessel toward the midline, dorsal aortic. Come straight down, gut. Why am I sure that's gut? Look, pharyngeal gill slit connected. Absolutely correct. That's gut or gut. Period. See how I did that? That doesn't take a lot of thought. That's definitive. Pharyngeal gill slits are from the gut to the exterior. All right. Now, thyroid's important, isn't it?
Yes.
In frog. I'll answer your question. Hold on.
Sorry.
Thyroid's important. Where would I expect to find a thyroid? In frog. Anterior to the heart, correct? Okay. On the floor of the foregut, anterior to the heart, at approximately aortic arch 1, 2. So somewhere close to aortic arch number 2, at the midline, coming off the gut, there will be an evagination which will branch to form the two parts of the thyroid. Here we'll just see the evagination from the gut. Yes, sir.
think I need the better because this one doesn't show it very well. This one
I
does.
think I saw it. Keep it by it.
Good. This one
By
shows
the way,
it
the
very well.
thyroid will be on the practical. And usually we try to show the thyroid. Oh, well, my goodness, there we are.
Oh, I found it.
We will try to show
No, I
the
found it.
thyroid where you can count. So what do you have to count? Aortic arches. How many? 1, 2. Where's the thyroid?
Yeah, that thing, yeah.
Point to it.
That.
There.
What is this right here? Stomadeum. Upper jaw. 1, 2, 3. Ah, 1, 2. There we are in line. Thyroid.
Okay, so the hole is the stomadeum, then here's the upper jaw.
These are blood vessels on each side. These are blood vessels right here. This is coming out of the gut. If you want to see, here is a pharyngeal cleft. A pharyngeal cleft has to touch endoderm. Up here, please, sir.
Alright.
That is the endodermal area. These are blood vessels. So this blood vessel here is connecting through that area where that endodermal pouch is. Okay? So I interpret based on pattern.
Blood vessels are what?
It's all pattern.
Spaces?
Everything
Yeah,
is
just the
pattern.
empty spaces.
So I'm trying to put in your mind the basic pattern. It's a lot more complicated than this. But the basic pattern is good enough for this course.
I feel like we've seen this before.
Have you seen that before? You should have. Last week. You did this last week.
Okay, that's what I thought.
You did this last week. I said I'd do it for you. I'm doing it now as part of your review.
Will you possibly run back through it just real quick?
Say again?
Will you run back through this little part real quick?
You want me to do what I did moments ago again
Yeah,
for you?
yes,
Okay.
please. I think I missed
I'm saying, and now some of these are easier to show, but here's stomadeal area, okay?
Right.
This is upper jaw. If this is upper jaw, this must be 1,
Okay.
2. At midline, there's a pocket right there. Thyroid always forms midline at 1, 2.
Okay.
Okay? There it is, right there. It's more in the 2 range.
Okay, cool.
Is
Think
that
about
true
this.
in your body?
Yeah, I was
Absolutely.
just going backwards and I was saying 1, 2 versus.
No, you have to have a marker. This isn't the best marker. We need something for the upper jaw. What is the best marker for the upper jaw? Eye. Okay. So if we had an eye, and it depends on the angle of the cut, how it comes out.
Okay.
All right? Are you good on that now? All right, it doesn't vary. It's absolutely. So if I showed you a pig, would it be the same?
Huh?
If
Yeah.
I showed you the pig, would it be the same?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. So we normally go for the pig next. We're not doing it this semester. You're not missing much.
Okay.
Pig's just a little older, but it shows the same pattern.
Got
So
it.
if this were a pig, you would count 1, 2. That way.
Got it.
True? Okay. Continue, sir. Go back toward the brain. Go other side, other way.
Oh, the other brain.
I'm sorry. I said, all right. Okay.
Messing me up, man.
So now we're going toward the posterior. We're posterior to the otic vesicles. Question: what's this? What's this? What's this?
Okay. Oh, wait, no, it's that one thing.
Yeah.
Well, if you can see more of it,
See, yeah, that's his
if
fault.
you can see more of it,
You
you
should
never
know the
call
pattern.
that foregut. That is,
The aortic.
why is it only 1? How many do you have anterior ascending aorta? 1.
Oh, me.
What happens is it comes together and fuses zipper fashion. This morning I was showing you a zipper. Remember? 1, 2, pinch it in, 2. Pinch it, zipper fashion. Well, you can also fuse 2 in the other direction. So here we have that central major blood vessel under the notochord, the dorsal aorta. And now there are 2 other blood vessels, 1 to each side. Anterior cardinals. Anterior cardinals, all right? So we're back to the cardinals. Neural tube, notochord major, blood vessels, gut. Please.
So a couple slides ago, when we first saw the dorsal aorta, there were the 2 large cavities. Could you still see the cardinals? Were those the smaller cavities that were to the side?
They were off to one side. I mentioned them earlier and I didn't go back.
Okay.
But when we show it, we usually show the pattern like this.
Okay.
Because you can't miss it. Okay, it's very obvious. The peripheral blood vessels in the anterior or posterior body are called cardinals. So posterior, they're postcards. Anterior cardinals. All right, it's not working.
And this is in.
Continue, sir. By the way, the cardinals may separate later. Let's go ahead.
Didn't you call those anterior cardinals though?
Yes, anterior cardinals. All right, now notice there's a gut structure there. And that gut structure is elongated. Do you see that? I want you to watch that gut structure. Where's the gut structure? How would you know it's endoderm? Do the same thing. Neural tube, notochord, major blood vessels, gut is elongating. There's a reason. A few more sections.
What happened?
Well, what it's doing is it's rounding out as it's elongating.
Oh, okay.
So here, all right, go up here. Go up here. Neural tube.
Notochord.
By the way, the cardinals are migrated down here now. They're down here. The reason the cardinals are down there is they're extending toward the heart. That's the common cardinals. Okay? Try again. Now there's that elongated part of the gut. And it's kind of that weird shape, and it's going to branch out like this. Show, please. Right there. What
Look at that
happened?
thing.
What happened? Okay, let's go up here. Up here, please. Neural tube.
Where's the aorta?
But the gut is doing something weird.
Is it doing that touching, that tissue?
Yeah, see, but there are three parts to it now. In all vertebrates, lungs are derived from the gut. So here we have formation. What is the first part of your lung called? It comes out of your throat. Trachea, and then it bifurcates into bronchi. Okay, what's happening
Yeah, it's
here?
like 24.
Bronchus formation. The bronchi are here.
Damn, bronchi's dope.
By the way, do you put that on there? We
Yes.
call these things lung buds. You will be asked what those are.
So what's the question?
Lung buds. Bronchi are all correct answers.
You can't throw this on this.
Please.
Can we scroll down this way to see the
That
interior
response.
of it? Like, where are we? Okay.
Yeah,
So
we're ignoring that. We did that before. We're going in the other direction.
You
just
gotta-
to know where it's lined up
Yeah.
together.
So are we good on that? Now there's some other structures there, and I've been ignoring it. Down here is part of the heart. So how would you recognize parts of the heart? Well, the heart has, I was about to lecture on that this morning. I didn't get to it. I got myself tangled up with what happens to the kidney. I know his bottom. What happens in bottom. But let's get to this story here now. Heart has more chambers, all right? In the mid-region of heart, one chamber called atrium is on one side, and the other major chamber, and it's all a continuum, is on the opposite side. You always can recognize the atrium because it is on the left side. So how will you, it's on the left side. So how will you recognize the left side? How will you recognize the left side? Well, you go out here and look at the exterior embryonic membranes, and you will look for blood vessels of the yolk sac, which is the left side of the embryo because it lies on its left side. Therefore, which structure is that? Atrium, which extends toward the midline as the sinus venosus. So this is atrium to the sinus venosus. This is ventricle toward the bulbus cordis. Okay? Okay, are we good? Eventually these will come together. Eventually this come up here. Eventually the sinus venosus will connect to the common cardinals. Remember the common cardinals are migrating down here? There's a common cardinal. Here is another common cardinal. They're going to connect with the sinus venosus. Your sinus venosus is part of your heart. Which part? Which part of your heart? has an SA node where your sinus is.
Right
You have 4 chambers in your heart. Which chamber?
Right HH.
Right auricle is where your SA node is, which is directly biologically related to what we're going to see. But we're not going that far, okay? I was trying to give you a reference, as many of you know now. All right? But this will be on the exam. Right there. So which is more dorsal, esophagus or trachea? Which is more dorsal in the cross section? Esophagus or trachea? Esophagus is more dorsal. Here's how to remember. You touch your throat right here, and you can feel it too. It has cartilaginous rings. What is that tube called? Tracheas have cartilaginous rings to give support so they will not collapse under changes in pressure. Okay. Right here, trachea. Where's your esophagus? It's on the other side.
So what were you just pointing at where the top of the heart came?
This is in the direction of esophagus. This is trachea to lung bud formation.
Okay.
Down here, these are parts of the heart. This midline part of the heart will connect with the common cardinals. They're up there. Off on this side where the blood vessels are, there's a blood vessel. This is atrium. On the other side toward ventricle.
Is the esophagus present on here? Can we see it yet?
A few more sections, please. Yes. Okay, which is the esophagus?
The top
The
of the
top.
The more dorsal one.
Yeah.
Okay, and the 2 others are lung buds. Sometimes you can clearly see in some of these sections, esophagus, trachea, not budding, and then you follow a few more sections, you will see the bud. Okay, so it depends on the angle of the gut and the age of the specimen. But you should recognize which is more ventral. Trachea and lungs are ventrally positioned. All right, that is a rule for these animals. All mammals do that. All avians do that. Avians are different in their lung formation. I guess you all know that. They have a lot of other strange structures, such as their size, which mammals
So which one becomes the pleural cavity, the lung? Does it matter? It's just one of the 2 bottom ones?
The pattern is right there. That is a fair question on a practical period. That shows clearly esophagus and a pair of lung buds. You may answer lung buds or bronchi. Both are correct answers. Okay, Michael? Michael, do you put that on the exam? How often?
Every time I've done it.
That's 2 more points each. 4 points right there. Okay? Is that good? You can't miss that. That's too obvious.
So if you point to the top one, do you want us to say it's
Right,
esophagus?
you will have stations, each station 4 points. So the pointer will be on something and there will be reference to something else, 2 points for each. That's what it was.
I mean, if you point to the top one, do you want us to say esophagus?
Yes, that's what it is. It's
Of course,
esophagus.
yes, that's what it is. And he could say, all right, what is this structure? He could say, put pointer here and say identify. And then he could say, identify the 2 structures ventral to this, okay? And those would be lung buds. And that would be a fair station point. Okay? Everybody understand that? Good. You're going to be ahead of this. We usually have good grades on the final one because this is so obvious. It's obvious at the beginning. You just have to become accustomed. Sir, would you continue, please? Look to the neural tube area. All right. Now I'm looking for something I don't see it.
You put that one
Continue
spot.
down please.
You're looking at that one spot that was significant by the somites?
I was looking for a cranial gang, a spinal ganglia.
I can get them in the pig. They're a little relevant in the pig if you want to show them. If you want to show them.
Continue down both ways. By the way, stop right there. There is a blood vessel over here on this one. There is a blood vessel entering the sinus stenosis right there. That's a common cardinal, and this one will enter on the other side. And then the sinus stenosis will divide into 2 parts as the middle of the veins. And right at that point is where eventually the liver diverticulation will appear. Show liver. I said chicken without a liver.
Yeah.
Chicken liver.
You said the cardinal veins become common cardinal veins that go into sinus venosus that
Yes.
then
Okay.
go into the middling veins. Right?
Yes. Go up here, please. This is that's right. She was dorsal elbow, I'm not sure. But she is correct.
Dorsal.
Yeah. You can't roll one on the exam, it's one or the other. All right, try again.
Cardinal.
Yeah, which one's anterior, posterior?
Post.
Never posterior heart, postcards.
Postcards.
Postcards, they're postcards. Postcards. Okay, and now this is gut, that's correct. And below the gut now, I didn't see the connection to the gut, but there's something forming right here around this big blood vessel. What is that?
Liver.
That's the liver diverticulation. So in this animal, it's tiny. The frog is giant. Here it's very small, but
Would
it's
you
there.
study that lopsided
Yeah.
or would you usually be right below it?
No, not the middle one. It's probably a little tiny thin
So
one.
you can watch this as we move a few sections. Well, look how multi-branched it is. So it's wrapping around that major blood vessel. That major blood vessel has a name. It's called the duct of the liver, the ductus venosus. We're not putting it on the exam.
So what's below?
There.
Is that the heart?
Okay, all right. Come over here. What is this? Stop. Come over here. What is this?
Yolk sac, what is it?
This is yolk sac, correct. So this is now part of the heart, and it extends over to the other side. So we're in the loop coming over from the atrium to the ventricle. And the main part of the ventricle, who has ever, have you ever cut open a chicken heart?
Yes.
A beef heart?
Yes. Oh yeah. From the south, man. Of course I did. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up in beef heart
Oh yeah.
during World War II.
Hearts and
It
gizzards,
was very
man.
hard to get to meat. I mean, so you would get all the odd pieces of the cow, like the heart, which my mother thought was first class. So we would have lentils. You know what lentils are?
Yep.
You know what lentils are? We have lentil stew with beef heart. So the beef heart has to be prepared. And that was one of my jobs, is to chop and cut the beef heart. So I never learned the heart anatomy when I was a little kid. Heart anatomy was right here. Which was the atrium, which we didn't need. Okay, the auricles and on, the ventricular parts. And I learned that inside the ventricle there are always these muscular supports. Now I know what they're called. They're called trabeculae. And they form right here, and they define ventricle. And there they are forming at that point. So wherever the ventricle is, you will see trabeculae, please.
Okay, so this might be stupid, but the chicken heart's 3-chamber?
Chicken hearts have 4 chambers.
Then where's the 4th chamber now?
They have
Do
2
they not have
auricles
2
and 2
ventricles?
ventricles.
Well, remember it's wrapping around in S backwards S, so you don't see all of them at once because it's
There's
three-dimensional.
a septum dividing the chicken heart. You don't usually see the auricles in chicken heart, they come along.
Yeah.
So you see the ventricular parts. There are 2 there. Look next time. You can cut it in half and see the 2 sides. The
No, I
right
think-
and left ventricle. All right.
She
You
means
see
on,
the
she means on here.
Well, here is right, and this is left and right ventricle here. They are connected at this point. All right? And the wall of the ventricle, I told you that silly little story to make a point about trabeculae, okay? Trabeculae are supports within the muscle itself. And they're easy to see, and here they are first appearing. And the ventricular muscle has trabeculae. Do you have trabeculae? You certainly do. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Someday you might see a human heart, a surgical suite, or do open heart surgery. Some of you are going to go on and become surgeons. Think about trabeculae. Think about how you make the cut in that heart, and not cause damage relative to where the trabeculae are. Go ahead.
So anytime that you show the cardinal
Yes.
veins.
We will show cardinals where you can clearly see the pattern.
So will we always have to say if it's posterior or anterior? Because I'm a
If it's
little-
anterior to the heart, there's no problem. And if it's posterior to the heart, along the posterior body, there is no problem. Do you usually mark them on there?
Depends on how I word the question. If I say be specifically with it, then yeah, you'll want to say anterior, posterior. But if it doesn't say be specific, which it may not if I forget to write
Here's
it.
a simple pattern rule. If you can see the kidneys, it's posterior. We haven't reached the
I
kidney.
haven't gotten there yet. You'll see them though.
Okay, so it's obvious, please.
The dark purple thing with the hole in it, that was part of the.
This
the
area,
gut.
this is called the dorsal mesentery, on which all viscera hang. Okay, so if you follow up dorsal to the dorsal mesentery,